What's up, everyone? It's Joey, Blush Response, and welcome to the latest episode of Sound and Structure. Today, I'm talking to Octonomy, a very exciting artist out of New York working in the fields of industrial, post-punk, and noise. Let's get right into it. So, hi, Octonomy.
Hi, Joey.
How is New York treating you?
New York is all right. It's, things are definitely have changed a lot post-pandemic, but I'm enjoying it personally.
Cool. I miss New York sometimes.
Yeah, you should come back and visit.
Thinking about it, maybe next year. I see a lot of synthesizers behind you. Can you tell me about them?
Yeah.
What have you got there?
Well, we are in my home studio room. Pre-pandemic, I adopted a recording desk from my dear friend Megan, who does the project Maydon, because she was moving to Berlin. And so my plan was to get a studio space and move this massive desk that she built, this massive, incredible desk that she built, into the studio space. That did not happen because everything shut down. So now I have this legion of synths in here. What do we have? This is a little Novation MIDI controller. I have my Yamaha Reface DX. Down here is my OB6. I've got some Electron stuff over here. Let me do a little pivot. My Octatrack, if you can see from my crappy phone or my crappy computer camera, Digitact, and my AS1, my little Dave Smith, a Pioneer collab synth that I use for playing live now because it's so tiny. And I have some other stuff. I have a Mofo. I have a Korg MS-2000. I have an SP-505 and an SP-404 and some other shit that I don't really use in the dark corner over here that you can't see. But the stuff that I mostly use is right here.
Okay.
My the center of everything, all of my Electron stuff. So that's it pretty much. This is my my MIDI clock. My Octatrack is the center of everything. It's sending everything to everything else. And pretty much everything is chained together in a big MIDI chain. I don't think anything's not on the chain right now.
Okay. So nothing is off the chain. That's cool. What was your first synth ever?
Hold on. The dog let me check on the dog. He's not having a good time.
Bring him in.
I know, I told my roommate.
I'm curious to meet the dog.
He's very cute. It's just funny. My roommate's been out of town for a week, and the only day that I'm actually home and doing something that's recorded is the day that my roommate comes back and the dog is barking, which is
well, it's no big deal. We've had animals make noise on here before.
Yeah,
we are animals making noise.
The dog literally Jody has not been around, and all of a sudden he's like, hey, I'm here. What's up? Anyway, what was your question? What was my first synth? Is that what you asked?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. My first synth was my MS-2000R.
It's a fantastic one.
It was such a great first synth for me to get because it's so easy to use. And I didn't know what I was doing when I first got it. I actually got it in a really funny way. Because my musical journey started with bands, and I played bass in a bunch of bands when I was younger. And I had a theremin, and I was always into industrial music and weird electronic music, but I never had synthesizers because there was just such a price difference between having my shitty knockoff, Fender bass or whatever, and having a $300 synth or something. But I was hanging out in Brooklyn a bunch, and my friend had a gig at the old beauty bar, and we went to go hang, and he was DJing there, I think. And the bartender was like, hey, someone just left behind their synth. I think it's broken. Do you guys want it? And my friend was like, no. And I was like, of course I do. And this was so long ago. This was I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or something. And I was still in a band where I was playing bass at the time. So I just brought my what I thought was a broken synth home, and I plugged it in and it worked fine. And it's just like, I don't know why this dude couldn't get it to work, but that kind of started it. And I just, the MS-2000 is so great because it has so many incredible pad sounds. And at the time I was really into, my band was doing whatever, but I was making ambient music. That was my little side project. And I wasn't like playing out or anything. I was just making it for myself and, recording layers of the MS-2000 pads into GarageBand and recording over, just layering things and just like kind of teaching myself how to record myself, like at the very beginning.
What year would you say this was?
This was probably in 2010 or 11, I would say.
Okay.
Because I was in a 5-piece band at the time. And
I remember that.
Yeah. It was a fun band. I think, the band kind of ran its course. We were like playing weird, I would say, I don't even know what genre it wasn't. It was like in the indie rock era, and we were just genre misfits. Like we were kind of freaks. We were playing like darker, weirder, gothier music when the music scene wanted to be like poppy and upbeat and like Neutral Milk Hotel, which we all fucking hated. And like we just, so everyone in the band went their separate ways. And I ended up doing another band and then another band, but the whole time I was kind of making electronic music at home just for myself. And then finally I was, the bands, it's hard to be in a band as you get older. People get busy and people move apart. And, finally I just found it like not feasible to be in a band anymore. And I was like, well, I've been doing all this electronic music for like years at this point. Might as well make it real. And that's how my project kind of started.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Your last release was the Tetramorph, correct? Yeah. Can you talk about the approach to recording that?
Yeah, totally. I recorded that very beginning of the pandemic. How did I even start with that? So I had written this EP a few years before called Warhorse, which I released on my friend Derek's label.
That's Anihil's Power Electronics, right?
No, his label is Chthonic.
Yeah. Okay, I had them confused.
Yeah, his label is the Chthonic and Chthonic Streams.
Yes.
And his friend Lee runs NLS. Also a really good friend of mine. They're both really awesome, very supportive, very cool people doing interesting, cool stuff. And
Lee is Navacon Torture Technologies, right?
That might be a moniker he goes by.
Theologian?
Lee? Yes, Theologian.
Yeah, I think he's Navacon. Let me double check that.
Yeah. I know so many people go by so many monikers that it's like hard to keep track sometimes.
Yes, he is. It's the same guy. Okay.
Cool. Makes sense.
I like him.
Yeah, Lee's awesome. Lee was actually booking the festival that your friend Thomas Trepanering's Ritual. I can't pronounce anything.
Trepanering's
he was
Ritual.
booking this festival in 2020.
Oh, we're frozen. Hold on.
Trepanering.
Okay. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
So tell me about recording Tetramorph.
Okay, so Tetramorph, early pandemic. My friend, I had some stuff in the works, and it was kind of stuff that was like, didn't exactly make it in time, didn't exactly become developed enough to make it on to Warhorse, but had just been sitting as a file in my Octatrack for a really long time. And my friend Dave Castillo hit me up in like the beginning of 2020 and was like, hey, I'm launching a label and I want you to be one of the first releases. And I was like, whoa, really? That's sick. And I was super down. And I was like, well, I have these old files of things in my Octatrack that I should probably work on. And now I'm laid off, so I can do that. So I like went into, the way my workflow is in my Octatrack is super disorganized, and I often just like, I'll get some idea, put it in a project. The project will make no sense, and I'll save it as some dumb name, and then I'll like look at it a year later and be like, I have no idea what this is.
Oh, great.
So, and I have like so many files like that. It's not good, but some of them have really interesting things in them that I should probably work on more. And yeah, so I opened up this old Octatrack file, and there are some cool little, I guess, like sequences. I mostly start by writing melodies with my Yamaha Reface, which I run through a bunch of like shitty distortion pedals. So they're like really distorted, almost like guitar-like sounding synth tones. And I just pressed play on one, and it was like this super cool, looming, evil, like medieval sounding synth line that I had written on the Reface. And that was kind of how it all started, with just like these evil, looming synth lines. And I was also, because I had nothing to do, just got so into reading weird biblical alien mythology. I don't know if you've ever read the book of Ezekiel or heard about it, but it's like this book of the Bible. I'm not religious, by the way, at all. It's like this book of the Bible that is super fucking strange, and basically just talks about like this dude meeting these angels that are essentially aliens, and it reads a lot like someone talking about their DMT experience. And I got so into the book of Ezekiel and the descriptions of these like insane biblical aliens, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna use these synth lines, write some songs. And Dave Castillo was like, you really should put lyrics on it, like your vocals are really cool. And I was like, okay, cool, well, I've been reading about biblical aliens, so I'm gonna write 2 songs about biblical aliens. And basically lyric wise, I used the book of Ezekiel as a massive inspiration. I mean, it's just so weird. Like, it's such a weird, like the Bible itself is weird. As someone who's not religious, the parts that I've read, it literally is the most insane book of all time. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's extremely poorly written. But the book of Ezekiel is written like a dude on DMT wrote it. Like, so yeah, I just used a lot of imagery and descriptions from the book of Ezekiel to guide the lyrical content, and kind of just wanted these like ominous but powerful, but like slightly euphoric tracks. And it's only 2 tracks, and there was some other stuff that didn't make it onto the release, some like droney ambient stuff that didn't make it on there because Dave was only doing 2-track EPs. But yeah, that was kind of how it all started, just finding an old Octatrack file with some like evil synth lines, and then building it up from there. So
let's backtrack a bit because I have a few questions. So in the Octatrack, was that like you sampled the melody into there, or it was a sequence and then you replayed the sequence again when you dug up the file?
It was a sequence. Okay. I got super into the MIDI side of the Octatrack. I used to use it predominantly just for samples and for resampling and stuff like that. And I got really back into actually like writing music with notes, which is crazy as someone who's been doing harsh noise for a really long time. Like during the pandemic, I was like writing music with notes. And so everything that I'm doing with the Octatrack for the most part is all on the MIDI side. So I'm sending, the Octatrack has its 8 designated tracks, and I'm using I have like 4 things that I use mostly that are MIDI chained that I'm sending sequences to. And yeah, so it was all MIDI. It's just literally sending notes to my guy over here.
And what distortion pedals was it going through?
The Hyper Metal, the Boss Hyper Metal.
Great one. Yeah, I love that one.
Mm-hmm. But I went through many different shitty distortion pedals before I ended on the Boss Hyper Metal. But it's cool. It makes it sound kind of like a super distorted electric guitar. I'm using this one pad It's like a preset reface pad. The motion pad, I forget what setting it is. It's literally just like it's like a factory, sound. It came with the reface, and I just am like super into it. I still haven't gotten tired of it, and I've had this thing for quite a while at this point. And I usually just use that with the hyper metal, and then like some sort of like vintage delay pedal.
Any particular favorite delay pedal?
What am I using? I think I just have a DoD vintage delay thing. I've never really been that into delay pedals. It's never been my thing exactly, but I do like that they can become really chaotic and uncontrolled when you like turn things all the way up. It makes, there's interesting dynamic that you can add there by just cranking it all. But delay is not really my thing.
So what would be your thing? More distortion side, synthetic side, or?
I guess a combination of, synthesizers and distortion pedals. It's kind of like my bread and butter. It's kind of been, it's kind of been the core of this project, my solo project, for as long as it's been a solo project. It's just been a bunch of synths running through a bunch of crappy distortion pedals. I have some favorites right here if you want to see.
Let's see them.
What do we got? Classic.
The one.
The one.
Yes.
I have two of these. True favorite.
It's one of mine too.
Yeah. And what else have I got? I have a bunch of other faves down here. Ooh. Oh, this is another favorite, the Behringer Bass Overdrive. I got this for $20 at a junk shop in like upstate New York, and it is so sick.
Yeah, those Behringer pedals are great. So cheap too.
So fucking cheap. But yeah, that's kind of, that's kind of what's always been my process, is getting a bunch of nice synthesizers and running them through $20 distortion pedals and seeing what happens.
I appreciate that attitude. I think it's a great way to do things. Do you do much sampling or field recording, or is it like 90% synthesizers, 100%?
I used to do a lot of sampling. Like I said, like when I started my solo project, it was mostly an ambient like noise drone project, and I had my little, Tascam, and I would just record so much. And I would, when I first got my Octatrack and I didn't really know how to use it, I did get really, really into just like making really long sample chains in Logic or something, and then importing it into my Octatrack. And I would just like, it would be really long. It'd be like 45 minutes long. And then I would just use the start setting and just hop around and set, set trigs to start at different points and just see what was at that point of the sample chain. And it would make these weird, like, cut up collage things. But I kind of stopped doing that. I kind of moved more towards actually writing music over the past year or so, or a couple of years, I guess. And now I'm not as big of a field recording nerd as I used to be, but definitely have a huge external hard drive with just a massive folder full of weird field recording things that I've collected over the years.
It's always good to have stuff like that at the ready to pull through at any time.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, because so much of like what I enjoy about industrial music is like, the weird found sounds that become percussion samples or something like that, or, like metal clanks or dog barks or whatever things that,
Has your roommate's dog made it on a recording yet?
No, I don't think so. Should probably get a couple recordings at some point before our lease is up and take advantage of it.
One of my tracks has my cat Bulma, the white one, meowing and purring in the intro, but it's all pitched so it sounds like a demon.
Aw, demon cat.
I'll send you the one.
Yeah, send me that. I would love to hear it. I also have a cat now too. I adopted a cat. I forget if I said earlier this year, and she should make it on the recording too. She's got a cute little meow.
Is she around for the video?
Dolly. Yes, she is.
What's her name?
Dolly, after Dolly Parton. Yeah, she's always sitting. Hold on, she's right here. Hi. Sorry, she ran for it.
Okay, she's camera shy.
She's camera shy. She just doesn't like being picked up. She's
Maybe she only works when there's money on the table.
No.
I wanted to ask, what are you recording in? What software?
So I use mostly Logic for everything. I have I'm not gonna, I don't really I used to have a license for it, and I'm a big proponent of not having licenses for things.
Yeah.
You can edit that out. I don't know. So I use Logic pretty much for everything. I don't use any fancy plugins or anything. My laptop is far too old. So I'm just using it for tracking things, and everything I'm doing, outside of the computer if I can help it. And in my whole recording chain, I have everything running through a shitty Mackie CR1604 mixer, which has a bunch of direct outs that go directly into my interface, because I like how it makes it sound kind of worse.
Mackie is the sound of techno in a way. So
yeah, totally. I mean, it's got, it definitely adds a little bit of a flavor to it. If I were going directly into my interface with my synths, wouldn't be there. And I do use my Mackie to EQ outside of the program. So, all my synths are, a little bit, there's something happening before they get into the DAW. And then once I record them, I don't really do a lot with them. I know as in my job, where I work, we have really fancy Waves plugins for a lot of our consoles. Our consoles are all digital consoles, and it's so fun to play with them at work. And all of my coworkers who are also audio engineers and do a lot of music at home all have so much experience, and they're like, oh yeah, no, I have the same ones at home. And I'm like, I have a version of Logic that barely works. If I ran any of these plugins, my entire computer would catch on fire and explode.
How old is your computer?
It's only a 2017, but it's a MacBook Air, and it has 0 space. So it's not that it's an old bad computer. It's just an old limited space computer. So realistically, at some point, I should probably upgrade and get something nicer so I can do some cool stuff with plugins, because there are so many interesting plugins that are available. But for right now, I'm doing things pretty much the old-fashioned way.
Well, the results are great, and that's what counts. But if you have not yet tried repasting the CPU on your computer, it will help it a lot.
Oh, yeah?
Should be done every few years, but no one knows. Well, some people know. But my 2015 MacBook still runs quite well after a repaste.
Cool. Okay. Well, I'm probably going to ask you more questions about how to do that at some point, because I'm pretty illiterate when it comes to all things that have to do with the computer. I think that's why I like hardware synthesizers, to be honest, because I really don't I'm not good at computer. I'm bad at computer. I feel like a boomer sometimes. How do I use a PDF? What am I doing?
Well, I hear about people talking about when computers first came out and their like assumptions like, oh, everyone is going to be a computer genius in the 2000s. And most people don't know how to do anything.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I mean, I feel like when I first got a computer, when I was like coding, songs and into my MySpace to make sure that they would never stop playing or whatever, like I was better at computers then. And now I'm an idiot and I don't know anything.
what was playing on your MySpace?
Probably the same shit that would be playing now. Honestly, my taste in music has not really changed.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, it was probably like Nine Inch Nails or something.
Me too.
Yeah.
The Fragile.
Yeah. what did I have? I think I was I listened to a lot of WFMU, like growing up around New York. You get that great freeform Jersey City radio station, WFMU. And so there was so much cool, weird, like minimal synth music that they were playing in this one show that I can't think of. And, I remember listening to that stuff like when I was very like in high school. And that was like my formative taste, I think. And so it's all just been downhill from there. Now I'm just a committed adult goth and nothing's ever going to change about that.
As it should be. Stay true to yourself.
Thank you.
Too many people like throw away the black funny shirt and never come back. We don't need them.
We don't need them. This Depeche Mode tattoo is permanent.
Yes. How are you processing your vocals?
Well, that I actually am using some basic plugin stuff for. I have my little condenser mic over here, and before I used to do my vocals and I used to record them in just the absolute worst way possible, which is like recording them directly into like it would be like mic effects pedal interface, which meant that I was there were no clean takes of vocals at all. It was just all super fucked, and sometimes there would be crackles and pops just like trapped in the recording. And I remember like when I was first releasing Warhorse, I sent some stems to Derek Rush, and he was just like, is this all you have for the vocals? And I was like, what do you mean? I was like, yes. This is it. This is what they're supposed to sound like. And he was like, so you don't have like a clean take? And I was like, why? But I got a little bit smarter, and now I sometimes I'll do like a send and return thing, and I use an Eventide H9 with all the cool Eventide, I don't know what my favorite, it's mostly just like a reverb that I'm using, like some Eventide reverb. And yeah, now I don't record it that way. I do record clean vocals, and I will put some reverb on after, the smart way, the right way. I don't know, the right way.
It's kind of the right way.
It's kind of the right way, but whatever.
I mean, that's still workable.
Yeah.
I once had to mix a minimal synth record, and I remember the singer took forever to send the vocals, and then when we got them, she was chewing gum in the vocal take. That was a nightmare to edit.
And you're like, is this supposed to be there? And she's like, yes.
Yeah. After waiting months, I was like, oh, fuck. Yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah, I can only imagine how difficult it probably was for people to work on my mix and master my stems. And, I don't know. I'm like a huge fan of terrible recordings, though. Like, I love a lot of my favorite weird records are ones that are recorded horribly, and they sound like, they're recorded with like through a metal can or something. And I do think that like recording, like making it bad from the get-go definitely adds some cool flavor. But I also acknowledge that like I work with other people along the process. Sometimes I'll have someone mixing with me, or sometimes, the master will have to get something nightmarish, and I realize I'm just making their jobs harder when I don't do things the right way. So try to be a little bit easier on people who I have to work with. And
What are some of your favorite tin can weird records?
ooh, that's a long list.
The first three that come to mind.
Okay, let's see. Well, I love 11 Pond a lot.
Watching Trees.
Watching Trees, baby. Like, that record sounds terrible. I mean, it wasn't recorded that long ago, but it sounds like it's like 800 years old. I love that. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, so much of like Veronica Vasica's like minimal wave catalog is recorded like that. And I just absolutely love that stuff. Like, there's just like such a quality about it that is like ethereal and weird and creepy and like timeless somehow. Actually, like an acquaintance of mine has a project now that's recording some really incredible stuff called Revenge Body.
Okay.
A person I knew when they lived in New York, moved out of New York. It's also like kind of a cold wave project, and it's just like, so if you haven't heard of Revenge Body, you should totally check him out. It's just so good.
I will definitely check it out.
Yeah, and like the audio quality is just kind of like it's definitely like this like lo-fi cold wave sort of quality about it. And the person who does the project makes a lot of videos to accompany, and the videos are all shot on like grainy VHS. And I just think it's like such a beautiful project. And yeah, stuff like that. I could go on. I'm sure you've listened to a lot of the minimal wave stuff, or at least you're familiar with it. But I really love the way all of that stuff is just recorded and curated, and definitely.
Yeah,
big
definitely.
fan.
I used to be at the Weird Records party in New York like every week for years when it was still going on. So I must have seen, I don't know, Marshall Kennerell's, Noklander, Light Asylum, Epi Dubois, Letter S like 1,000 times each. So I feel that. Totally feel that.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm playing a show with Marshall Kentrell coming up, or I'm DJing on a show that here in New York, which should be pretty cool.
Oh wow! You want to talk about one of the greats? He's amazing.
Yeah, I'm pumped.
I'll never forget this time I saw him live, and he had like a 6-panel surge on stage. Like, who would ever bring that out to do a show?
That's iconic.
Yeah. Speaking of weirdo music, a recent discovery of mine, not a new thing for some, I would imagine, but German Army. I got this cassette on Lies Ron Morelli's label. Super cool, weirdo outsider stuff that sounds like it was recorded badly. It's amazing.
Oh my God. Okay, I'll check it out. You sold me.
Yeah.
The second that someone's like, oh, it sounds like it was recorded in a bathroom with like one microphone, I'm like, oh my God, I'm sold. You sold me.
Yeah, I'm super about that. Like I'll tell you what, I was looking at the Lies Bandcamp and the word outsider was there, and I was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even have to hear it.
Totally. Yeah, I feel like there's some keywords that people who have been making weird, dark, evil, or inaccessible synthesizer music are just like, they're like, okay, outsider, okay, poorly recorded, all right, I'm sold, I'm here.
Yeah. There's too much good recording. Let's have everything be bad.
Please.
Speaking of that, what are you working on now?
So right now I have a tentative release on a label. I don't know if I'm allowed to reveal any of it yet because it's still in the works. But it's a Berlin-based label.
I know who you're talking about because your friend told me.
Yeah. So I'm not going to say anything until it's a little bit more recorded, because right now I have a handful of tracks and I'm still fleshing out the ideas and like the concept behind it. But so I'm working on an album. TBD the release date, because it's still, I'm still writing it right now. We're hoping to have it released this month, like November 1st, but that was when I agreed to that, when I was like still relatively unemployed before nightlife had come back. And then all of a sudden I was booked to work every single day in the month of September. And I was like, oh, I forgot that I have to participate in capitalism. I don't think this is going to happen like, you know, in November. So yeah, so it will come out at some point. Hopefully sooner rather than later. I have to work it out, but I'm pretty happy with what I have so far. It's a little bit more EBM-esque than I think things that I've worked on before. Like, you know, my previous recordings are very, I don't really know how to classify myself. I'm not really good at it, but they're, you know, I don't have like a rolling bass line in every single track. And in this, I'm just, there's a lot of cool dancey bass lines, which I'm excited about. But still going to be recorded using the same equipment that I've been using. And, you know, a lot of my like sound palette that I've created, it's going to be there. Yeah. So that's what I'm working on now. I just played a couple of live shows for the first time in like over a year. And I played some of the new songs, and I don't think I said, this is a new song, but it was like, oh shit, this is the first time I'm playing this for anyone. And people seem to be really into it. So I was excited about that response.
Are there vocals on these new ones?
There are.
Okay. Yeah.
Not on every track, but on a lot of the tracks.
Cool. I'm very curious to hear it. Send me some. I'd be curious.
Yeah, totally.
Tell me about your approach to playing live.
So that's a very good question, because that's something I've totally like reanalyzed over the past year of not playing shows. Before the pandemic, I was like the worst kind of person, I guess, where I would just be like, okay, I'm going to make stuff in my studio. I'm going to take apart my entire studio and set it up at the show. And I'm going to have like 8 things on this table. That's how I'm going to play it all. And I guess during the pandemic, I just became such a homebody, and I really got comfortable leaving my stuff in one place and not having to, like, it was kind of nice to not play shows, because it is really exhausting to have to take apart a whole bunch of stuff and set it up somewhere else, and then take it apart again and then put it back in your studio. So I now have tried to create the most compact setup that I can and still play my songs to, you know, like play them live. So I have this, you probably can't tell from where the camera's positioned, but everything that's sitting on this desk right here is actually sitting in a flight case. Okay. And it, you know, I have a top, and when I have to play a show, I basically just unplug it. I unplug the MIDI stuff, wrap all the cables in here, and put the top on. So this is my entire live setup right now, is one case. And yeah, I just, there's no one gives a shit that you're playing like, you know, a live set with like a million synthesizers on stage. Like, the only people who care about that stuff are other losers like us who are like, oh, what you got on the table? But for the most part, the audience doesn't care at all. So there's no reason for me to like have some insanely complex setup. So my live setup basically consists of my Octatrack, which is my MIDI hub, essentially, my clock and sending everything, my Mofo, the AS1, and the Digitact, which is just like my designated drum machine. And that's pretty much it. It's pretty, you know, it's pretty bare bones, and it does. And I just, I guess now when I write songs and it's using something else that I don't want to play with live, I'll just sample it all into the Octatrack, and, you know, or I'll record it onto my computer and put it in a sample chain, and then put the sample chain on my Octatrack, and just like the audio quality isn't as good as playing it, you know, directly out of the synthesizer, but it works. No one notices the difference, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think it's relevant. No. That's cool. Mofo and AS1 are great choices. Saren has both. We use them a lot for our Concourse project. Cool. Yeah. I mean, I just love that they're so small too, you know? Yeah, they're great for that. I'm thinking of changing my live setup myself to something really compact, because I've been doing the modular live for years, but I heard a horror story of a DJ playing in Mexico, and they confiscated his modular at the border, and he never got it back.
Oh my God.
So I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, traveling internationally with gear is like literally a nightmare, you know.
Once I played in Argentina, and they lost my check-in baggage with my rhythm and octatrack for like 3 weeks on the way back. Yeah, I thought I would never see it again.
That's like my worst fear. That is so scary. Yeah. What's your live setup like right now? Are you just using the modular that you've been using for a while?
Well, I don't have one. I haven't played live since 2020. I used to, just before COVID, I was playing live, and it was basically an analog rhythm and a modular, just 2-row case. And then I did one set for the Electron Model Cycles debut, and that was entirely in that. And then my intention was to, with my album Voidin, to make an entirely new live set and setup and to promote that, but COVID, so now I don't have a live setup. And I ended up selling the rhythm I used to use live just because people need money. And so I don't know what I would do now, but I'm kicking around some ideas. We'll see.
Yeah. Oh my God. Before pandemic relief funds, I got super nervous about, I was like, all right, how am I going to do this? And I thought about selling some of my stuff, and thank God I got on unemployment right in time and I didn't have to sell things, but I was just like, no, I don't want to do this.
Yeah. It's a sad feeling to sell things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sad.
What's your most regretful sale?
I try to avoid selling things as much as I humanly can. And I've been pretty good at it. So I don't have any regretful sales that I can think of off the top of my head. If I wanted to get anything back that I ever had, I don't know. I can't say that I have that many regretful sales. I mean, I did have a full size, there are a lot of things. Here's what I'll say. I don't have that many regretful sales. Like, I'm very happy with my equipment right now, and I'm holding on to it for dear life because this is like kind of my dream setup a little bit. But there have been things that I borrowed from friends that I've had to at some point given back, and those are the things that I miss the most. They're the things that I never even owned. And one of them was like a full size OB6. A friend of mine was lending me, like, the keys and everything, and that was just such a fun thing to have. And I played like one live show with it. That festival Unsound, I played a collaborative set with my friend January Hunt, and I played with the full size OB6, and it was just so magical. And I told my friend, he's like, I think that's the only time anyone's ever played live with it. And he's like, I kind of want it back. And I was like, no, really? Fuck. All right, take it back. And still miss that thing. It was just such a cool synth. I have the module version of it, the small version, but it's not the same as having keys.
I feel that. Is it laid out differently control-wise?
It's pretty similar. I think there are some minor differences, but it's basically the same thing. It's just not the same when you have to have like a control, when you're using a MIDI controller as the keyboard rather than like the one that came with the synth.
Definitely. There's a bit of a disconnect for whatever reason, mentally even.
Yeah. There's a bit of a disconnect. Things aren't mapped in the same way. And, mentally there's a little bit of a disconnect too. But yeah, I mean, I don't have any space for a synth like that anyway, so it's probably good I don't have it anymore and that my friend has it back.
I mean, you got a really killer setup there, honestly. Whenever you post a photo, I'm like, damn.
Yeah, so. I'm really happy with everything that I'm using. And, honestly, I have a huge thanks to give to my friend Megan because she built an incredible, like, you can't see it, everything is sitting on it. She built an incredible recording desk that all of my rack mount stuff sits in. And it's super practical, and it's really like changed my entire workflow too.
Send me a picture. I'll put it on this of your setup too.
Yeah, totally.
We'll
There's
do that.
nothing I love more than taking pictures of my synths. So.
I too share that fetish. Is there anything you're looking at, like that you want to get, or?
Yeah, I've been looking at a bunch of things for a minute. What's the most recent thing I've been looking at? I can't think of what it's called. Is it the JDXI, the Roland JDXI? The little, hold on, let me look up a picture of it. I'm so bad at remembering things unless I own them. JDXI. Yeah, the Roland JDXI. It's like this small little analog digital crossover synth, and it's not super huge. I think I just want something new to be like. I don't use many things with keys, but because I do write music with notes. Sometimes it's nice to just like have something to work out ideas on and play notes. And so I think I might want to get a Roland JDXI just because it's like, I don't know, an expanded and much more elaborate version of the Reface DX, and it has a lot more stuff you can do with it. Yeah, so that's what I've been looking at. I've been thinking about just dropping some money on it or trying to find one used.
Those things are cool. They got a lot of interesting sounds in there. Pretty underrated.
Yeah. I'm like a big fan of, I know a lot of people don't do this, but I like, I like the sounds that come with synths. I like the sound design that people put it, like the work that people do to that sound, the sounds, like I'm into that. So I like using a synth that just has some cool sounds on it. And I'm just like using the sounds as they are, like the patches, without messing with them that much. So yeah, I was watching some demo videos, like nerdy dudes being like with the pads, and I think that's my next thing.
I think it'll be a great choice for you. I've actually been. We had one for a minute here, but it was Yoda, my partner's. She wasn't so into it, but I thought there was potential there.
Yeah. What did you like about it?
This engine, I think it's called Supernatural that they have in there. It's got like samples and synthesis you can combine and effects, and it just has like a cool sound. And it even actually functions a bit like a groove box. Like you have the TR step sequencer in there with the drum samples and everything. So you can do a whole track just in there probably.
That's awesome. I mean, I like, I like something where I can do, where it has like really, really functional multi-purpose things. Like I could do a lead line and a bass line in it, because that just makes the work that my Octatrack has to do so much less. Because right now my Octatrack is just doing all the work and it's working so hard. And it's nice when I don't have to program every individual thing and I can do something in another, in another synth.
Yeah, it's a good one for that. It I lost my train of thought. Hold on. It's dope. That's all I mean. What I want to say is that I like those Rompler synths. I have a big nostalgia for that kind of sound, even though they're considered cheesy. I love Romplers all day.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I will take that as a seal of approval.
It's a good one. I think we nailed all of the questions here. Okay, no. What is your worst live set ever, or the funniest thing to happen to you on stage?
Oh my God. So many terrible ones. No, just kidding.
I had Fade on here recently and he had some great stories. So
I love that. Oh, I miss Fade. I would like to hear his terrible live set ones. Honestly, some of I have many bad live set stories, but one of the worst, I don't remember what show this was just like it was just some show, and somehow my entire project file on the Octatrack got fucked. And I don't exactly know what I did. I don't know if it was when I first had an Octatrack and I didn't realize that certain things on other pages were muted or whatever, because there's, I think one of the big learning curves with with any Electron stuff is just the amount of stuff that you don't realize is happening in the program unless you fully understand, like, you know, the workflow. And I think it was just like something was maybe happening like in my bank that I didn't realize. And just whole parts. I remember just being on stage and just only one MIDI part was playing and it was just like, dink, 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 dink. And I was like, where are all the other parts? What's happening? And I was anxious. So I was just pressing things and I muted another thing and it was like, dink, 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 like hitting the same one thing. And I couldn't figure out why nothing else was playing. And then I realized like a whole bunch of stuff was muted. And I unmuted it and the song played, but it was probably, and like the people, there was a lot of recordings of that show. It was like quite well attended. And there's just so many videos I saw later of just me being like, and it was like, dink, dink. And I was like, oh, this is so humiliating. This is the worst. It's just, just like every part of the song is gone other than this something that should have just been lost in the mix, and it just sounds like shit, and I'm just freaking out on stage, and there are like 100 people in this room or whatever. Yeah, I don't remember what show that was. There is a live recording of it. I got the recording, and I was just like, I'd never want to listen to this.
How long was that moment on the actual recording? Because I bet it was only like 2 minutes.
It was like 2 minutes, but it was the longest 2 minutes of my entire life. Exactly.
It felt like eternity, I bet.
Oh, like eternity. And a funny thing happened a bit later is that I played another show like a while later, and some girl came up to me at the end and she's like, hey, I really liked your set. And I was like, thank you. And she was like, yeah, I thought that you sucked because I saw you at this one show and like I didn't like your set at all, but that was actually really good. And I was just like, oh my God.
Fuck. That's savage.
Can't believe. It's just like, it's fine. Like I played so many shows when I was younger with my band or like one of my noise projects or something that were just like absolutely everything went wrong, but there were like 5 people in the audience. So it doesn't matter because I was like playing in like the DIY New Jersey music scene, and the only people that were there were the other people playing, and we were playing in someone's basement, and the basement was called like the Pig Fuck Den or something. That shit was fine, but it's so different when you're playing to a large crowd and people are going to remember that it's bad. So yeah, I definitely played a lot of terrible shows when I was younger, but like 3 people were there and all of them played terrible sets too. So it was totally fine. It's not as fun when there's like a room full of people and they're like,
Yeah, I'll share one. Once I played in LA and I think I ended up playing like 2 hours delayed and I just kept drinking. And I must have had like, I don't know, like 8 beers. And I'm not much of a drinker and I don't know why. I was just so fucking bored waiting to play. So I was fucking wasted by the time I got on stage. And I don't know what I did. I in the moment, I don't know how I did this, but I know what I did is that like I had a loop that was supposed to trigger to start a track on the octa track, and somehow I had placed an extra trigger on like step 15. So it was like da, 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 and it just kept going like that, and it sounded totally off, and I couldn't figure it out, and I was too drunk to see the screen. So I just had to stop playing because I could not figure it out at all. That was the worst set I ever played. I played for like 10 minutes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I feel your pain. It's hard with like the octatrack because it's so powerful and it does so many things. But if you're too drunk and you have to play a live set, just literally everything can go wrong, Yeah. Like I can't even tell you, I've like cleared whole banks by accident before, not playing live, but just like playing with my octatrack drunk. Cleared whole banks, just, accidentally copied and pasted something where it shouldn't be, and all of a sudden a sequence from some completely other thing is playing, and I'm like, why does it sound like a toilet's being flushed? I don't understand.
Yeah, the synth is falling down the stairs.
Yeah, I'm like, why is my synthesizer on fire? I don't get it. Oh, it's because I did some weird key combination in my octatrack and everything's ruined now.
But that's why live is live. That's what I like about live. It's totally unpredictable.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I don't know. I've kind of gotten to a point where, you know, I used to be really into just improvising on the fly, but I'm not playing that. Like, I'm playing songs now. So I have gotten to a point where everything, at least for my recent sets and my couple of upcoming sets, everything's going to be the same. You know, I'm going to play the song the same way every single time because, yeah, it's just, you know, there's a moment for like having a really chaotic set, and I've had many of those moments in my lifespan with my solo project. And right now I'm like, I just want everything to sound okay. I don't want it to be unpredictable. I want it to sound the same. It's going to be the same. I got really into arranger mode on the Octatrack, you know, and arranger mode just is the number one way to structure a song and make sure it's going to be good every single time. So I don't know. Maybe that's a cop out. Maybe I should be into the unpredictability, but I'm just like so over it right now. But who knows what the future holds?
I mean, they're different approaches. Both are valid.
Yeah.
You know, especially if you're trying to play songs with structures, that's the only way, really.
Yeah, totally.
We're not the legendary Pink Dots who can, like, my buddy saw them and that said that Edward Caspell did a 20-minute improv vocal about the traffic on the way to the gig when he saw them. And I was like, yes.
Respect.
Yeah.
Like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to see them. Never got to see them.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
One day.
Mm-hmm. So I think we nailed it, Heidi. Thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, totally. I hope you make a supercut edit where it's just like that Lego video where you cut out every single time I said synthesizer and you get just like synthesizer. That should be, you should make that.
Maybe I will. I had Irkana on and he did one himself of just him like no words. It was really funny. Even funnier is my mom called me like really concerned. She's like, hey, Joey, that video you posted, something is wrong with the cut. The guy's not talking. Are you sure you posted the right video?
Yeah, I saw you post that clip and I was just like, is it what? I was like, wait, this is great. I love this.
Yeah. He went full meme on that. I appreciated that. We'll see. Synthesizer.
Synthesizer.
Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hope you enjoyed that. If you'd like to know who's coming up next on the podcast, you can do that by subscribing to my Patreon. Peace out.